The way people act, speak, and behave online is disgusting. People treat each other so horribly and feel justified about it. They make excuses. The other side did worse. It's just online. Trolling, bullying, and communication breakdowns abound. People belittle and dehumanize others to score points. They talk like there are solutions, and if they were in charge of what could and couldn't be said, then there would be no problems. Over the past few years, and especially during an election year, this kind of content and rhetoric has only been ramping up, and it's not without consequences. This behavior is becoming more and more prevalent, and while it may seem like the effects are limited to online spaces, I'm certain it's wreaking havoc on society, and I don't see a straightforward answer to it. The needle on what's considered acceptable is slowly and continually moving further and never moving back, not only in regards to the terrible things people do and say online, but also to destructive ideas incrementally spreading in society, namely, the ends justify the means, or whatever it takes for my side to win. These go hand in hand with short-term tactics that have long-term consequences. Manipulation, lies, mass spamming, bots, deception, and cancel culture, just to name a few. Communication in society is deteriorating. While social media appears to improve it by making it faster, more accessible, and always at our fingertips, these qualities have unintended drawbacks. Yet, social media itself isn't the core problem. Rather, it's the tool amplifying deeper cultural issues which are tearing at the fabric of Western society. Welcome to Contagiously Curious. How long does it take people to figure out how to use a new technology? No, I don't mean your grandparents trying to figure out how to text, but rather for society to adapt, to understand the implications that this massive change has, and learn how to maximize usefulness and mitigate downsides. The invention of every tool has brought uses both good and bad. Fire can keep you warm and cook your food, or destroy food, people, houses, and more. With the ability to do greater good or greater evil comes the process of learning about how to deal with its immediate and branching effects and implications. Some other discoveries and inventions with massive impacts on society: engines, electricity, antibiotics, photography, indoor plumbing, and more. Is there a perfect way to deal with and understand any of these inventions? Engines came with safety hazards and labor displacement. Electricity is volatile and lethal when misused. Overuse antibiotics and get superbacteria. With photography comes Instagram and OnlyFans. Indoor plumbing requires proper water treatment and waste disposal. Now, these 5 examples have greatly improved our lives, and we wouldn't want to live without them. My point is just that it's taken time to learn how to use these right. And for some of them, we're still figuring things out. Cocaine used to be considered a medicine. Our pipes were made of lead. People had to be told not to use toasters and hair dryers near bathtubs. The internet, smartphones, and social media, each on their own, is enough to have drastic effects on society and will take years, maybe generations, to figure out not only what all the lasting effects are, but also how best to deal with them. I believe we'll figure it out eventually, and people will look back in bewilderment. Much like how we look back and think, I can't believe they put cocaine in their drinks. They'll be saying, I can't believe they sat there and melted their brains like that. Pushback against social media or any level of restriction will be met with, don't take away my social media. Just like a century ago it was, hey, don't take away my cocaine drink. It makes me feel good. What precisely is the best course of action? Time will tell. But it certainly isn't what we're doing now. When it comes to inventions, social media in particular is a fascinating case, partly because it's the culmination of several inventions. Having the internet in our pockets and beginning to grasp the correlated possibilities. We're at a time when back-to-back-to-back groundbreaking inventions are sending shockwaves with rippling effects throughout our society, and the next blast hits before we've recovered from the previous, as the deluge of what's unknown keeps compounding. Social media is the digital form of the printing press. When invented, the printing press completely upended the way people lived in terms of access to knowledge and spreading ideas, both good and bad. The accelerated spread of ideas revolutionized news and education. Instead of the few rare scrolls or handwritten books that were only available for the upper echelons of society, written material could suddenly be mass-produced at a fraction of the cost. Information could be spread far quicker and became far more accessible. In itself, this is neither a positive nor negative. It's wholly neutral. Information as a concept is neutral. Information that matches up with reality and enables you to make beneficial decisions is good. Information that does not match up with reality will mislead you and can have dire consequences. And then you can have information of the first kind, strategically included or excluded, to paint a picture that misleads, even though it is entirely factual. To this day, people still argue about what books should be allowed in schools. A different list of books will be banned in different countries. One country says this is the most important book, and another has it banned. When it comes to ideas, free speech, theories about the world, the nature of man, thoughts about God, there is no consensus. Over time, the West settled on the absolute necessity of the freedom of speech, which, just like the vast number of opinions and theories, is not black and white. Libel, false advertising, incitement to violence, making threats. There are a number of things you do not have the legal right to say. Every day the boundaries are tested, and people attempt to make restrictions to improve society. It might sound nice to ban the ideas you deem as dangerous. Let's take hate, for example. But you can't ban thoughts or feelings. Even if you could, who would determine what does or doesn't count as hate? Does a mean joke to a friend count? How about that same comment to a stranger? Does it depend on how they felt at that specific moment? It becomes like the multiverse. In a number of cases, it was a funny joke, and then in other timelines, it was a hate crime. What about just letting the majority decide what's hateful and what isn't? Well, as soon as 51% perceive an idea from the 49% to be threatening, it's now classified as hate, and it's a crime. It's a slippery slope to tyranny, where 51 wolves and 49 sheep vote what's for dinner. The new printing press enhances the spread of ideas and information, the good and the bad alike. It's easy to look back with hindsight and see the problems that have come with social media. But who's to say we're aware of all of them, or that we fully understand them? Number 1, mental health. In the past 10 years or so, we've seen documented increases in the cases of depression. Anecdotally, we also see shortening attention spans, rising loneliness, and increased superficiality. Number 2, bad habits. Due to anonymity online, people treat each other far worse. They say things they would never say in person. On top of that, there's the endless scrolling, taking in garbage repeatedly, losing track of time, and then feeling like crap. And then the constant comparison. Both points 1 and 2 are starting at such young ages. How many kids under 10 have social media accounts, let alone smartphones? Adults are struggling with loneliness, laziness, depression, and addiction, and there are parents letting TikTok and YouTube be their free babysitters. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product, or in this case, your child is. No loving parent would lease their child's rearing to the highest bidder. In any case, you'd have to ask, what exactly do they want my child's attention for? It's going to take a reframing of society's perspective on this issue to fix it. Number 3, worse relationships. People today may have far more friends, but fewer people to spend time with, and less meaningful time spent with others in general. I'm sure you've been in public and seen a group of people all looking at their phones. Number 4, expansion of societal and cultural problems. Cyberbullying, trolling, and dishonest, manipulative communication are all contributing to deteriorating social trust, moving us from a high-trust society to a low-trust one. There are pre-existing societal issues being blown out of proportion by social media. It's like washing down Taco Bell with a bottle of laxatives when you already have dysentery. In the past, ideas were shared at coffee shops, universities, cafes, and cathedrals. These were the various meeting places where people came together. Their precursor was the lowly town square, the middle of the village where people congregated, a place for markets and fairs, festivals, celebrations, protests, and announcements, anything and everything, from education to politics, to religion to entertainment and more. Social media is the new town square, the center of culture. With the invention of the internet, development of smartphones, and creation of social media, we now have all that the old town squares used to offer online. We even have far more connections and interactions in our digital town squares than would ever have been possible in the largest of cities throughout history. We're connected to all of the good and the true, and all of the bad and destructive. Every bit of information about education, politics, religion, and entertainment, as well as the corresponding, unendingly varying opinions, and the bad actors, bad values, and bad incentives abundant online. We've had this mix of true and false in our town squares in the past, but if you were in the town square, you were exposed to all of it. Today, we have the ability to pick and choose. We create our own town squares within these platforms. Don't like someone's opinion? Block them. Remove them from your version of the town square. We can make a town square where only the things we like happen. We can create a false sense of reality, a nice comforting one. We can get the news we want, the pictures we want. We don't have to listen to anyone who disagrees with us. We can each have our own virtual reality. It's literally the choice in the Matrix. And most people are opting for the blue pill. Unfortunately, it isn't neatly packaged as a simple choice like Neo is offered. It isn't all or nothing. Instead, it has all the appearance of being representative of reality. And it is, but in picking and choosing the parts of reality we want to see, we get a partial picture that has the look and feel of a complete picture. On top of that, the town square is filling with trash. Our printing press is mass-producing garbage. As AI is increasingly woven into the mix, we can only expect this to worsen. Content curation, rather than creation, is going to become increasingly more important, sorting out the trash. And when it comes to usage, something is going to need to change. Because with the way things currently are, how people use social media, adults and children, and the behaviors it incentivizes, is leading society off the edge of a cliff. We're going to need to make a concerted effort to figure out and share how to be more responsible with our consumption of social media, in our own lives and in raising future generations to become healthy, functioning adults. Personally, I got rid of all my social media apps several years ago. At first, I thought it would be tough. I felt like I would be less connected, and even though I missed the amount of memes I was seeing, the time I gained back that had been previously spent doom scrolling was so significant that I never looked back. Now, I want to work on spending less time on YouTube. I've stayed away from shorts because, well, they're an endless cesspool of worthless clips that hijack your dopamine system. But I still spend too much time watching full-length videos, clips, and highlights. I'm aware of a number of famous or high-profile individuals who have come out and said that they have two phones, a work phone and a crack phone. They find their phone, particularly social media, extremely addicting and nearly impossible to regulate. So they create an artificial barrier. They physically separate themselves from the fun phone if they have something they need to get done. Okay, if you're like me, then that's a little too expensive of an option, but you can see how seriously some people take it. People take drastic measures because it's so hard to regulate your content usage if it's always there. A practical step is to create those boundaries. Set app time limits. Make a bet with friends. Whoever has the lowest screen time for the week gets free coffee or dinner. Whoever has the most buys it. Buy a cheap alarm clock and sleep with your phone in a different room instead. Set simple rules like no phones in the bathroom, turning every trip into 15 minutes of doom scrolling, and phones on silent when with friends or family. So many other things that become vices for people are often isolated to times or places. But smartphones are, for so many people, at arm's length at all times of the day, everywhere they go. Bathroom or bedroom, waking or sleeping, in the car, at home, in the office. It's a serious issue, and too few people recognize this, let alone consider it severe enough to take action. Hopefully I've given you some food for thought. Like and subscribe, share this video with a friend who needs to hear it, and coming soon is part 2, covering how the very design of social media is fanning the flames, commoditizing your attention, and indirectly, your mental health. And given the way it currently functions, aids and abets bad values and bad actors.